को भी अब सच्ची बोलो मुझे डाउट आ रहा था
उनको दोनों को कराना।
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. I warmly welcome you all to FNC's session on preserving the spark after Ayyam Azah. We begin this blessed session by invoking Allah's help and guidance. May this gathering be a source of enlightenment, peace, and spiritual growth for everyone involved. As we come together to seek knowledge and deepen our understanding of Islam, we will begin our session with Dua al-Faraj. Let's recite together with sincerity and devotion, praying for the relief of all oppressed and for peace and justice in the world. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا وذليلا وحيدا حتى تسقنه أرضك توا وتمتع فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Before we begin our session, please note, ensure your microphones are on mute to maintain the session's flow. If you have a question, kindly use the chat function. We will have a dedicated Q&A segment towards the end, inshallah ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, we are honored today to have with us Maulana Sayyid Zaidi, a respected scholar and speaker who will enlighten us on this topic and share valuable insights from the teachings of the Holy Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. We are grateful for his presence and look forward to a spiritual enriching discussion. Please join me in welcoming Maulana Sayyid Zaidi to begin this session. Without further ado, I present to you, Ya Sheikh. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد والثناء لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما سيدي ومولاي بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, thank you, Brother Amjad, for the beautiful recitation. May Allah inshallah bless you and include us all amongst the followers of the Imam, inshallah. So today's session that we have is, the title is How to Maintain the Spark. Now, one of the things that's important for us to understand is that in Islam, there's various aspects to our religion, right? There's the actions that we do. For example, the Ayyam al-Azhar coming to an end. We all went to Majalis the first 10 days. After the 10 days, we attended Majalis, Julus, Azadari, and so on and so forth. So that's one aspect of Islam, which is obviously very important, especially with more emphasis on the wajibat, and then so on and so forth, the mustahabat and the mubahat and so on and so forth. Anyways, another part is the intention of what we do with the amal with, and the intention is also rooted in the ma'rifah, or the understanding of something. So when we talk about maintaining the spark, we have to look at this issue from all three aspects, all three parts of the action, that what I did, what intention I did it with, and what understanding I did it with. Starting off, I would like to share a hadith from the sixth Imam, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, with all of you. Risala salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Over here, the Imam says, Al-amilu ala ghayri basiratin, كالسائر على غير الطريق لا يزيده سرعة السير إلا بعده. So what the Imam is saying, that an amil, meaning anyone who does amal, anyone who does any actions, which is all of us, because we all do actions, right? على غير بصيرة. If anyone who does actions without basira means without insight meaning without understanding, meaning that they're just doing actions for either, without understanding, or as we've mentioned in previous sessions before, that understanding and iman and all of these concepts are on a spectrum, right? So it's not like you either have it or you don't have it. You might have a complete understanding, but one might not have any understanding. So those are the ends of the spectrum. And then usually most of us will fall somewhere in between. So al-amilu ala ghayri basiratin. Anyone who does any action without any basira, without any understanding, without any insight, كَالسَّائِرُ عَلَى غَيْرِ الطَّرِيقِ. He says that a person who's doing actions like this is like a sa'ir. Sa'ir is like a traveler. And the Imam says he's like a traveler who's fallen off the path. السَّائِرُ كَالسَّائِرُ كَسَائِرِ عَلَى غَيْرِ الطَّرِيقِ. That he's fallen off the path. And then he says, لَا يَزِيدُهُ سُرْعَةُ السَّيْرِ إِلَّا بُعْدًا. That the faster they go, it would not help them in any way except taking them further away from where they were supposed to be. So it's important for us to understand that the emphasis that the Imam is putting over here is not on the action. He's saying everyone's doing actions. Al-amilu, al-amilu. Everyone's an amil. But the amil who's ala ghayri basiratin, who's without basira, who's without understanding, his example is the example of someone who's a traveler but has fallen off the path. And therefore the quicker they go, the faster they move, the further away they'll be getting away from where they would like to go. So what that highlights for you and I is that when I do the azadari, when I have this spiritual high during the Muharram and during the months of Muharram and Safar, going to the majalis, the zikr of Ahlul Bayt, the zikr of Imam Hussein, the azadari of Imam Hussein, which in and of itself is like one of the best actions, right? One of the best mustahabats. And in some ways, it's more than a mustahab if you look at it ideologically. Anyways, but action-wise, it's the mustahab, and it's one of the most important mustahabs, where Ayatollah Bahjat Rahmatullah alayh has been quoted as saying that shedding tears for Imam al-Hussein, for Abi Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam, could even be better than Salatul Layl. And you know about the emphasis that there is on Salatul Layl within our narrations, within the Quran itself. There's emphasis on the importance of Salatul Layl. In the mustahabats, it's one of the most highly emphasized mustahabats. And Ayatollah Bahjat Rahmatullah alayh is saying that the shedding of the tears on Imam al-Hussein is higher than that. So that really highlights for you and I the importance of going to these azadaris. But putting this fact, which is the importance of azadari and importance of commemorating Karbala, commemorating Ashura, in the light of the hadith that we mentioned from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, we understand that the better a person understands, the better his or her basira, the better his or her insight, the better they understand Karbala, the better they understand the mission and the reasons that Imam Hussein took the stance, the philosophy behind Karbala, the philosophy behind Ashura, the reasoning behind that, the better I understand that, the more worthy my azadari will be, the more worthy my matam will be, the more worthy my recitation will be, the more worthy my attending the julus will be, and so on and so forth. So that's something that we understand. And this is just one of the hadiths that I mentioned as an example. But when we look at the Islamic ideology, whether in the Quran or the hadith, we see that everywhere this is what is pointing towards understanding, towards, everything that we do is based on our belief system, which is the aqaid, which is after we understand the aqaid rationally, then having the iman. And iman is something also that is based on understanding, right? It's not just saying that, okay, la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that I said this, therefore I believe in God and I believe in the Prophet, and that's good enough. No, the true iman that really transcends the mind and really, is able to settle in the heart is the iman that comes with an understanding. So understanding that. Now, if we go to the title that we have, that, maintaining the spark, one of the things that I need to judge for myself and everyone for themselves is this: how real was this spark anyways? Right? How real was this spark that I had? Was it just an emotional high? Did I feel connected? Did I understand what was going on in Karbala? Did I understand why Imam Hussein took the stance he took? Why did he have to go out of his way to Karbala when there were people who were advising him, go this way, go that way, and then as the history narrates, that his brother Muhammad ibn Hanafiya even came to him and said, okay, if you really have to go, after he tried to convince him not to go, then okay, if you really have to go, then why do you have to take the Ahlul Bayt? Why do you have to take the women? Why do you have to take the children? And so on and so forth. So understanding why Imam Hussein did that, the better I understand, and the better I understand the message of the Quran, where the Quran is saying, وَلَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, that the Holy Prophet at the peak of it, and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, are role models for you and I. Therefore, the principles that they live by, the stances that they take, these are not. It's not just a narration of some fictional story, or even a narration of a real story. This is something that's more than that. This is a story that's being narrated, that Sayyidah Zainab Salamullah alayha in the Darbar of Yazid, when she told Yazid, Kid kaidak was'a sa'yak, that, do whatever you want to try, as hard as you want to try, la tamhu dhikrana, that you will not be able to erase our dhikr. The dhikr that she's talking about, the remembrance that she's talking about, is it just a remembrance, a verbal remembrance, or is that zikr, meaning that the principles that they stood up for will never be forgotten? That the stances that they took, the values that they had, that they will never be forgotten, and there will be a people in the future till the day of judgment who will raise their voices to uphold those values and uphold those beliefs and uphold those principles. So this is something that's important for you and I to understand, that to realize that this spark that we're talking about, how real was this spark for me personally? Was it really just, first of all, was there even a spark? Right? Let's be honest about it. Was there even a spark? If there was a spark, was it at the emotional level? Was it at the rational level? What level was this spark at? And the reality is that the deeper that level is, right? If I don't have a spark, then there's nothing to maintain. If I have an emotional spark, then it's very difficult to sort of maintain that, emotional state throughout the year. But the way the humans work is, we're rational beings. Sometimes we act very irrationally, but we're rational beings. That if we understand something, then the way we work is that then we convince ourselves, then we make the irada, then we move towards doing something. So similarly over here, for me to be able to judge myself and see that how deep was this spark anyways. And the reality is that if it was, the shallower it was, the more difficult it will be for me to be able to maintain it. Because as we mentioned, if there is no spark, there is no spark. If it's an emotional one, then it's extremely difficult to maintain a certain emotional state. Throughout the year, throughout the week, even it's difficult. Throughout the day, it's even difficult. Anyways, so understanding the reality of the spark. Now, what if, right? The people who, alhamdulillah, were able to understand it in a way where they understood it rationally, they understood that there's a message in Karbala, this message needs to be alive till the day of judgment, not just because it's a message of Imam Hussein, but even before Imam Hussein, right? His father, his mother, his grandfather, his brother, every single one of them lived by the same principles. And these are the principles that are the Quranic principles. These are values that the Quranic values. So when Imam Hussein alayhi salam takes this stance, it's not because he dreamt up this new value system. No, it's the same value system that's mentioned in the Quran. It's the same principles that are mentioned in the Quran, the same principles that his grandfather lived by, and so on and so forth. So the better I understand those, if it's emotional, whether it's can there be a combination of both rational and emotional? Yes, hopefully I'll be able to cover this, but in case I'm not, please do remind me towards the end when we do the Q&A. Actually, let me just mention it right now. It's maybe a good place to. So there's emotional, there's rational, and so on and so forth. The emotion is something that's important in Islam, right? Islam is not something that suggests, and sometimes in our communities we see these sort of extremes. That one extreme is, super, I shouldn't call it super, I'll call it pseudo intellectuals, right? That everything is rationality and we understand this and that and whatnot. And the other extreme is where it's completely emotional. There is no understanding of what I'm doing. My forefathers did this, so I'm doing it. And not that it's fake, it's good. You see, even people who might be at that end of the spectrum, when they hear the name of Imam Hussein, they truly, from the bottom of their heart, they shed tears, and that is valuable. Don't let me clarify that we're not saying that is worthless. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the true worth. There's an even higher worth for those emotions, and that is when those emotions are rooted in rationality, right? So if I, for example, just the way my disposition is, or the way I've been grown up, or I've been raised, and the environment that I grew up in, I'm inclining towards the intellectual. That's fine. That's where it's rooted, but that should eventually lead to emotions as well. It's not just, I understand Imam Hussein, I can repeat everything that he did, but it doesn't move me. It doesn't transcend my mind. And from the other end, if I'm inclined towards the emotions or rooted in the emotions, that's fine. But eventually, I want to move towards where these emotions are rooted in an understanding. So yes, they can definitely coexist. And the ideal is actually when they do coexist. So regardless of which side of the spectrum you start from, the emotions need to be rooted in rationality. So what if I'm someone, so this kind of answers the question that I was going to raise, that what if I'm someone who, okay, oh my God, what do I do now? Muharram just went by, Safar just went by, Ayam are done, and I feel like I'm more towards, the emotional side. That's okay. What I do from here on is I try to deepen that understanding of the philosophy behind Karbala, the understanding of Karbala, the life of Imam Hussein, the life of the other Imam, the other Imams, the life of the Holy Prophet. The deeper my understanding will be, the more it will ready me for the Muharrams to come, the Shahr Ramadans to come, and so on and so forth, for all the times to come. So it's not like, okay, this time just got done, that's it, my time's gone, I've wasted my life. No, it's not like that. The doors are open, and even if it was emotional, but it takes me to that point where it makes me understand that emotion was there, it was always there, but that spark is a spark of rationality, is a spark of, wait, there must be more to this. Imam Hussein gave his blood, gave his life, gave his children, gave his brothers, gave everything in the way of Islam. And my responsibility is just to go commemorate him by crying and holding my alam and going to the julus and reading the marsiya and listening to the marsiya and doing the matam and so on and so forth. That's it. Like, he gave everything. His mother gave everything. His father gave everything. His brother, his grandfather, his children, they all gave everything in the way of Islam. And my responsibility as a follower, as a lover of Imam Hussein, is just that I just go, I cry over him, and that's it. Right? If that spark of rationality comes, then that is something that's extremely okay. There's another question coming, but if you could please, I want to say, yeah. So I didn't read the whole thing, just what popped up, but inshallah, if we could save it for the Q&A session, then I think that'll be good. So understanding that, what was I saying? That my actions are need to be rooted in rationality, right? So we understand that. If I was at a point where it's all rational and I don't have any emotions, then I truly need to understand where, there's more for me to understand. There's more for me to understand because, for example, I rationally believe in Allah. Okay, that's beautiful. I rationally believe in the Prophet. Okay, that's beautiful. What does believing in the Prophet mean? Does it just mean that I can prove that he's necessary or he needs to exist and so on and so forth? Or do I have iman in him as well? Do I have iman in his words as well? Do I have faith and belief in his words? Do I understand the sacrifices that he gave? Do I understand that when he says that I don't want any ajr from you other than the love for my close ones, or and so on and so forth, the love that he had for Imam Hussein? Should I not replicate that love for Imam Hussein? And so on and so forth. So regardless of which end of the spectrum I'm on, what I'm trying to do is to try to come to a place where they're both as strong as possible. The rationality is strong and the emotions are strong. The better we understand this, the more foundational my change will be, the more foundational my experience will be. And therefore, the easier it will be for me to maintain that throughout. Right? It will, inshallah, eventually, may Allah bless us all with that, but it will almost come as naturally as hunger comes to me. Right? I don't have to think about getting hungry and therefore I go have lunch. I don't have to think about getting hungry and therefore I have dinner. Almost naturally, when I stand up for namaz, when I walk around, when I go for work, when I go to school, when I come back to my family, when I'm serving my family, when I'm helping my family, when I'm doing community service, when I'm doing activism, when I'm standing up for the rights of the oppressed, and so on and so forth, everything. The better my understanding of these things are, the more foundational the change will be. So this is something that is important. Now, that said, let's quickly have a look at what's going on in our world today, right? I know all of you might not be, but it seems like most of you are from Pakistan, right? You look at what's going on right now, right? The sort of the various sort of readings of Islam, the various readings of Karbala. First, it used to be, no, the scholars say something and the Zakirin say something and these people say something and those people say something. And now it's like, a step even further away where, whatever we thought were the quote unquote scholars, now there's a difference in reading over there. And we see that the awam, the people, the public, are kind of just following. What that shows me personally is a lack of understanding, a lack of understanding the purpose of Imam Hussein, a lack of understanding that Imam Hussein is not separate from the Quran, right? We talk about this, that we have the Quran and we have the Quran in Natiq, and we have the Hadith al-Thaqalain, right? And this is something that we really take pride in, that the Holy Prophet talked about, the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, they will never separate. But over here, when we're talking about the Quran, right, there's no doubt that the Quran is the book that's till the end of time, till the day of judgment. But then when we look at the seerah, when we look at the stances, when we look at the life of the Imams or life of the Prophet, we're limiting that. We're limiting those principles. Are they not supposed to be the role models who are going to show us in different situations what stances to take? Right? So is the purpose of that not, does it not say in the Quran that the Quran is sort of criticizing the people who are saying, oh no, these are just asatirul awwalin, these are just myths or stories of the previous people? No, the purpose of repeating those stories for you and I in the book of guidance is that there's lessons in there, whether it's the stories of the prophets, whether it's the stories of the previous people. The reason that these stories are repeated in the Quran, which is the book of the last prophet, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is because all of them play a role in where our Prophet is trying to take us. It's a book of guidance, right? ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This book is a guidance. It's a form of guidance. It's a form of mercy for you and I, because it shows us the past, because it shows us that, listen, we're not just theoretical, we'll show you practically as well. We will narrate these stories of people in the past who lived by these principles that we're telling you to live by. And then our people are, because of a lack of understanding, because it's maybe at least in some circles or some factions, that it's more heavily emotionally inclined, that understanding is not there, not being able to put two and two together. And that's why we see that all these these, I don't know if you want to call them fitnas, I don't know if you want to call them new readings, I don't know if you call them I don't know, progressiveness, whatever it is that you want to call them. But one thing is for clear, that it's not what the Quran is wanting you and I to do. Quran's principles are till the end of time, and so is the life of the Imams and the stories of the Imams and the lessons of the Imams. So it's essential for you and I to be able to understand those principles. Now, sometimes there's these fallacies or these mughalitas that are presented to be able to spark that emotional sort of side of the people, which they're already heavily sort of inclined towards. So now we're talking about no, we as Shias have nothing to do with Gaza, we have nothing to do with Palestine, we have nothing to do with this, unless it's a person who prays on the turba, unless it's a person this, then we will not speak up, it's not our responsibility. Whereas the Quran is saying, listen, the Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying, the Holy Prophet is saying, whoever wakes up in the morning and doesn't care about the affairs of the Muslim is not a Muslim. Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying, listen, stand up against the oppressors, stand with the oppressed. Imam Hussein is saying that, listen, Inna Ahl Bayt al-Nubuwa, we are the Ahl Bayt al-Nubuwa, Ma'dan al-Risala, Mukhtalaf al-Malaika, that this is who we are. We're the Ahl Bayt al-Nubuwa, we're the place where the sort of the place where the Risala and the prophethood lies, where the place where the angels come and go. So he's clarifying that this is one side of the story. This is who we are. So us and everyone who's aligned with us. And he said the other side, and Yazid is a fasiq. He's he's a corrupt man. He kills people. He's sharibul khamr. He drinks alcohol and this and that, and he openly does this. So after clarifying the two sides, then he says, well, mithli la yubay'u mithla, that anyone who's like me or aligned along with me or lives according to these principles that the prophethood came to, and the household of prophethood, will never bow down, will never align, will never be okay with the other side, which is corruption, which is fisk, which is evil, and so on and so forth. So, and then Imam Hussein is saying that, the Prophet has said that, Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying that, the Quran is saying that. But then, because my understanding was a very emotional sort of understanding, or there was no perhaps understanding, was very emotionally inclined, that so easily I'm convinced that yeah, I have nothing to do with these people. Whereas there's people who have nothing to do with Islam. There's people who have nothing to do with any religion. Even they have enough common sense. Even they have enough humanity that Amir al-Mu'mineen is like, pouring his heart about. That, listen, care about humanity, worry about humanity. Either it's a person, a brother in religion, or he's common in humanity with you. So a person who has nothing to do with Islam, nothing to do with any religion, just a random, you know, getting along with life kind of person, living in the West, living in the hub of all this corruption. But even they're able to see through this. Even they're able to, even their humanity is awake. But then a person who's a muhib of the Ahlul Bayt, a follower of Imam Hussein, person who's going to the majalis, is not able to see that. Right? This is, again, this is an issue which roots in that initial sort of understanding. Is it emotional? Is it just emotional? Is it rational? Anyone who has a sort of a rational understanding will be able to reach these conclusions. Now, someone might ask, but the people who are saying this are also, supposedly rational people or scholars and so on and so forth. I don't know about these people. I don't know them personally. I don't know what the reason is. Sometimes it's both for a certain personality. Sometimes it's both for the leaders of a certain thought. Sometimes it might be another agenda. I don't care about those people right now. I'm talking about the awam. I'm talking about the people. Where's the understanding of the people? So, anyways, I'll complete this and go back to kind of just finishing sort of remarks about what we were talking about. And it might seem to someone that, your title is this is what you're talking about, and you're talking about something completely different. What I would like to clarify is it's not it's not something completely different. If we're looking to maintain this spark, the deeper rooted this spark is, the deeper sort of rooted it is in understanding, the easier it will be for me to maintain this spark. And I can look at myself last year and the year before and the year before, last 10 years, 20 years. How much difference has Muharram made for me? How much difference has Safar made for me? And alhamdulillah, it might be the case that for most of you, it has made a difference. That after I understand Imam Hussein and his stance, it when I heard that on the Shab of Ashura, he went and he said, "Oh Abbas, why don't you go get time for one more night?" If it was someone else, they might be saying one more night. So, it's really overwhelming. I just need one more night. I need to be able to digest this. This is stressing me out, and so on and so forth. The time is coming. But Imam Hussein, it was not because of that. He tells him, go tell them, because I like to do istighfar. I like to pray to my Allah. Inni uhibbu salat. I love salat. I want to get closer to my Rabb. 63 years, this is all I've done, but I want one more night to be able to further this, to be able to get closer to him. So understanding that if I am someone who loves Hussein, how can I not love something that Hussein loves? If I'm someone who loves Hussein, then why don't I want to be like Hussein? Why don't I want to take the steps that Hussein took? Why don't I want to try to live by the principles that he lived by? Isn't this, and even this is something that we see in our own households as well, right? Whether it's to the mother to the child to the mother, father, husband, wife, whatever it might be. People want to be loved how they want to be loved, right? You can't go tell someone that, mom, I'm gonna go, I don't know, it's the weekend and I'm gonna go play cricket for 8 hours, and she'll be like, why? And you say, oh, because I love you. And she'll be like, what's the connection over there? What's the connection? If you love me, this is how I want to be loved. I want you to at least occasionally listen to me. I want you to be able to help me. I want you, and so on and so forth. You don't decide how you want to love me. I will tell you what love means to me. And similarly over here, Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam says, "Man yuhibbuna faly'amal bi'amalina." Whoever claims to love us, whoever loves us, فَلْيَعْمَلْ بِعَمَلِنَا, they should act according to our actions. So understanding, dear brothers and sisters, that it is never too late. Alhamdulillah, we have been blessed of being of a school of thought that believes in Imam Hussein, that believes in Amir al-Mu'mineen, that believes in the Holy Prophet, that believes in the Quran, and not for us to be, you know, by everything that I said, not to think that, oh my God, I've wasted my life. No, as I mentioned, we're all on the spectrum. And the reason we've been given this life is to be able to pursue that journey of moving up the spectrum. So wherever I might be, if I'm at 5%, 10%, 20%, 90%, there's still room for improvement. And that is the main purpose why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me this life, to be able to pursue that spectrum, to be able to push my own limits, to be able to push my sort of efforts to the extent where I can start moving and keep moving up that spectrum. So understanding that. Now, other than all this, this is the most important part of what I wanted to say. Other than that, some practical sort of tips to be able to maintain. See, one of the things, what was it? And remember, I talked about last year and the year before. Forget last year. After Ashura, how has my life changed after Ashura? It's almost been almost like 50 days now since. What did Imam Hussein change for me in my life? These are the questions I need to ask. So I'm not talking about, okay, officially it's 9th of Rabiul Awwal when the Azadari ends. So, okay, 10th of Rabiul Awwal, I need to start thinking now. What do I need to do? What have I done from Ashura till today? What did I do between Ashura and Arba'in? What did I do between Arba'in and today? That is what I need to ask myself. And if I haven't, or not as well as I have, that's okay. I still, alhamdulillah, I'm alive right now. That means I have that opportunity to improve myself. But some practical tips. What is it that made you connect with Imam Hussein? Right? Was it his Masaib? Was it his Fazail? Was it understanding what he stood up for? It's not the case that, you might have a favorite speaker who really helps you connect with God, who helps you connect with Imam Hussein. You can listen to those majalis throughout the year as well, right? So that's one thing, that if it's the Masaib, if it's, it doesn't have to be every single day, once a week, once every 2 weeks, twice a week, depending. So being regular in those majalis, if there's no majalis around you, then, even online for that purpose only, even online, if it's the connecting with Imam Hussein, reciting his ziyarah, whether it's ziyarat Ashura, whether it's another ziyarah, giving our salam to him, connecting to him throughout the year, trying to contemplate over the ziyarah. I'll quote one line from the ziyarah of Arba'in, where it says that وَبَذَلَ مُهْجَتَهُ, that he gave his blood, he gave his life, he gave anything, فيك, in your path, O Allah. For what? ليستنقذ عبادك من الجهالة وحيرة الضلالة. The reason he gave his blood, the reason he gave everything in your path, O Allah, is to wake up the people from their ignorance, from their jahalat. وحيرة الضلالة, and from this confusion of being on the misguided path. Right? This is when we look at our community today and what's going on in our sort of communities, you see that, wait, Ashura went by, Arba'in went by, but we haven't been able to come out of that jahalat. We haven't been able to come out of that ignorance. To make things worse, there's, quote unquote scholars that are pushing us towards that ignorance, that are pushing us towards that jahala. So anyways, understanding that purpose. So maybe more regular in majalis, if that's what makes you connect. If it's the nohas that make you connect, that. If the ziyara makes you connect, that. But contemplating about these things. When I do matam, when I listen to a noha, not just that, I'm like humming along with it, yeah, this and that and whatever, that's fine. But try to listen to the nohas that are a little more deeper in meaning, contemplate those meanings, connect with Imam Hussein through that, cry for him through the Masaib, through the Nohas, through the Marsiyas. In a lot of ways, I personally feel like the Marsiyas and the Salam are better to connect with Imam Hussein than the Noha. Because the Noha, and I'm just saying sometimes, right? It's not like this is it. There's a fatwa, and now, okay, we can't listen to Nohas. No. That's not what I'm saying. But the reason is because the Noha kind of, right, you see it in Muharram as well, that, okay, let's take out all these USBs and MP3s and whatever that were songs. We're going to put these away for 2 months and 9 days, and let's bring in the Noha MP3s and this and that. And now it's just sometimes a replacement for, what am I going to play in my car? What am I going to play while working out? What am I going to play to entertain myself? I just need something. That's what I'm used to. Or for example, I enjoy doing matam, and all of that is good stuff. But the deeper the understanding. So my point is, the marsiya and the salam kind of take away that part from it. So there's more of a chance for one to be able to contemplate, for one to be able to think and connect. Perhaps, maybe. That's just my personal opinion. It might apply to some of you, might not apply to others. So doing those things. And then on top of that, so what do we have? We have the majalis, we have the ziyarat, we have the Noha Marsiya Salam, whatever it is. And on top of that, trying to read more about them, trying to understand them more, trying to understand the sort of purpose of Imam Hussein and the history of Imam Hussein and how he lived life, the values that he lived by. Trying to understand those from the Quran. For example, Surah Tawbah, Surah number 9, verse number, if I'm not mistaken, either 21 or 24. But it's talking about all these things that we have in life, all these things that we have in life. And the Quran is saying, if any of these things are more dear to you than Allah or His Prophet or jihad in the way of Allah, then just wait and see what Allah is going to do till He passes His commands. So understanding that what Imam Hussein did is rooted in the principles of the Quran, right? So doing all these things, trying to do one principle that the teachers of akhlaq, teachers of spirituality always mention is that, and it's rooted in hadith, it's from the hadith, that even if it's less, right, but it's continuous, that is much more effective, that's much more efficient for someone than doing emotionally, okay, it's end of Muharram, I need to be able to do everything, and I'm doing 10 things that by the end of the week, by the end of the month, by the end of the next month, I'm left with even one thing out of the 10. So being able to see these things, there you go. Thank you for sharing the verse. It's in the chat if anyone would like to. What verse was it? I didn't see the whole message, but I believe it was either 21 or 24. So doing those things after all this, right? Last point. After all this, actually talking to Imam Hussein, doing tawassul to Imam Hussein, begging him to increase my understanding, begging him to increase my love for him, and on top of that, and depending on how we understand, along with that, and in some ways more important than that, is talking to Allah. Begging Allah, praying to Allah, asking Him for these things, that please increase my love for Imam Hussein, not thinking that it's just my actions and what do I need to do? Okay, I'm doing these 5 things and I'm reading more, so my love for Imam Hussein is going to increase and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. Yes, our actions are important, but these attributes and these feelings and this understanding and where we started from, the basira and the insight, these are God-given blessings. So I need to do the actions, but then I need to beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for these as well. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of Imam Hussein, for the sake of these 2 holy months, for the sake of the Ahlul Bayt, bless us with an understanding of the revolution and the life of Imam Hussein, the reason behind Karbala, and inshallah give us the tawfiq to be able to live according to those principles. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our Imam and include us amongst his sincerest followers, inshallah. With the barakat wa salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa
Jazakumullahu khairan ya Sayyid for your insightful talk. We will now open the floor for questions. Kindly submit your questions in the chat box and we will address them one by one. Please.
Okay, so we have a question over here. I'm a 15-year-old that wants to understand from my age what gives you more nearness to Allah and the Imam as a Muslim ibadat or community work. So essentially, who is this? Oh, Heather. How are you, Heather? Hope you're well. So the most important thing is to, there's two parts. Remember, I don't know if you were here at the start or not, but we talked about various aspects, the action part and the understanding part, right? The action part and the understanding part. Both of them are important. If I have a complete understanding of what it means to believe in Allah, what belief in Allah, the implications of it, then I will understand that that responsibility that brings upon me is in the personal sphere, right? My own personal ibadah, is at the family level, my responsibility towards my parents, is at the community level, my responsibility towards community, it's at the society level, my responsibility towards society, and so on and so forth. So that includes everything. It includes ibadat, it includes mustahab ibadat, it includes community service, it includes all of that. Now, it's important, obviously, because there's so many different things that we can do. It's important to maybe get some sort of advice, from your parents, from other people, of how to kind of balance those. Because at the end of the day, if I truly understand that responsibility, I will understand that school is also important for me. Being educated is also very important for me. Going to university is also very important for me, and so on and so forth. So not living these sort of one-dimensional religious lives that, I have my life and then, yes, I have religion as well. No, being able to see everything through the lens of Islam, that everything that I do, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep and my sleep as well, everything that I do, ideally, I want to be able to see it through the lens of Islam. I hope that answers the question. Forbid the haram, do the wajibat. Yes, very nice. Ayatul Abajat. So that is the very basic, to get close to God. You understand, again, this also can come within that discussion that when I talk about Allah and my belief in Allah, the implications of that is that I do all the wajibat and I avoid all the muharramat, all the things that are haram. Sometimes we think that the wajibat, the things that are wajib are just the namaz and the roza, and yeah, I'm doing that. And the haram is only if you go kill someone or you backbite, and then, oh, I'm doing that. I'm avoiding that. Oh, I'm good to go. No, there's more than that, and there's a lot of details. So inshallah, the more one can understand those and act according to those, inshallah, we'll be blessed with the high level. Question. Okay, here's a question, I think. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. I want to stay consistent in acts of worship like namaz al-shab, but after a few days I struggle with delaying or skipping due to tiredness. What advice or strategies from an Islamic perspective can help me maintain consistency in my worship and other daily practices? So one advice that the brother has given is this book by Ava Panahian, that's a good place to start. Other than that, one of the things that I'll mention is not to overload yourself, right? If you have like 10 things that you want to do, it might be overloading yourself with all the other responsibilities that you have. Rather, instead, being able to see even those quote unquote other responsibilities as pursuing the path towards Allah, right? Whether it's going to school, whether it's going to university, whether it's going to a job, going to work, whatever it might be. That's one thing. Other than that, so that's one thing important to understand. The other thing that's important to understand is there's a hadith from Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam where he says the qulub, the hearts, have iqbal and they have idbar. Iqbal means that they're facing the positive things or the God or the spiritual breezes and so on and so forth. So they're open to them. The heart is such that with open arms it's welcoming all those things. But sometimes idbar means turning your back. So the heart turns its back away from all of those things. And this is something that we all experience in life, that sometimes you're more inclined to do things, other times you're not as inclined to do things. What we would like to do, inshallah, is to live a life, move in a way where the idbar, or the times where the heart is turned away, is less frequent and shorter in period. So that's one thing. That's another thing. The third thing is to be able to, the deeper my understanding of these things, for example, namaz al-shab, right? If I truly understand what it means, if I read the hadith about it, if I read the verses about it, the more basically, and this is how we work across the board, the more I'm able to rationally convince myself that this is life and death. For example, this is what will make me, this is what will break me. And this is a journey. It's a journey, right? I'm saying it, and I struggle myself in places with this. But being able to convince myself, that's one thing. And then if it is the most important thing, right? And I'll give you an example. And this is something that, I've experienced like tens of times, if not hundreds, that I've never missed a flight, even if it's an early morning flight. What is it within me and in my understanding that the flight I'll never miss, but namaz al-shab I can miss? Right? It's that sort of, maybe it's the fear of, oh, I'm going to waste my money. Maybe it's I give it more importance. Maybe it's who I'm going to see. Maybe it's, I don't know, whatever it might be. But what's obvious is I don't give that importance truly to namaz al-shab. And that is a journey, again, to be able to understand, to be able to deeper the understanding. That's one thing. The other thing is that the better I'm able to do, and this is a struggle as well as a journey, the better I'm able to schedule my day, the more likely I will be able to do the things that I want to do at the times that I want to do them, because that's how I've scheduled them. For example, I want to get up for, I don't know, namaz al-shab every day, but then I hang out with friends till 2 a.m. once a week, twice a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever it might be. It's unrealistic for me to expect that if I'm going to be up till 2 in the morning, that I won't be tired, or I will be able to easily get up for namaz al-shab, right? So trying to fix that to the best of our abilities. Inshallah, that answers that question. Let's move on. Okay, that's just the verse, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 24. You can ask your questions. What could be a use case of Imam's principle, hayhat min adillah? Use case, I'm not sure what that means. Oops, just one. Sorry. What could be a use case of Imam's principle, hayhat min adillah, never to humiliation in our daily life and in dealing with the challenges of this century? Where should we be applying this principle in our actions? This is something that can be applied across the board. Across the board. Sometimes we feel like it's the socio-political sort of realm where this applies, because where he used it was there, that it's like this person has given me basically two options, either the sword, as in like I die, or that I be humiliated. And hayhat min adillah, and this dhillah, or this humility and this disgrace is far away from me, and I'm far away from it. So that's the sort of context that he used it in. But we have other hadith, we have other places where it talks about that the honor of a person, the sharaf of a person, the nobility of a human being is with their submission to God. So not at the same level, but every time I miss a salat, every time I miss a namaz, every time I miss a wajib, every time I, God forbid, commit a haram, all of these things are leading to my dhillah, okay, are leading to my sort of my disgrace, my sharaf. I was worthy of this, but I'm living over here. This is disgraceful for me. The Lord, the God, Allah created me as ashraf al-makhluqat, and then I'm busying myself with these lowly things. I'm sort of lost in the world. I give importance to this dunya, and so on and so forth. So everything pretty much across the board, from at a personal level, worship level, and at the social level, where if someone tries to, I don't know, scare me to a place where, if you do this, which is the right thing to do in your mind, then you will lose this. And that lose this part can be anything from a job to a career to, and so on and so forth, till the epitome of it, which is your life. And that is where Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam used this. I hope that answers your question. As you said, we have to ask Allah whenever we're in trouble in terms of our spiritual journey, but sometimes it happens, I ask him, but I don't get it. I ask him again and again, but couldn't get. Then what to do? Continue. The more sincere we are, the better it is. And this does not mean, don't conclude from this that therefore, oh, was I not sincere in my du'as? No. There's always room for improvement, right? That's one thing. The other thing is, if God has given us, inshallah, a life of 60, 70, 80, 100 years, then he might be thinking, hey, what's the hurry? You have to go through this process. It's not a walk in the park. The spiritual journey is not a walk in the park. Your entire purpose that I've sent you, that everything that I've given you is because of that. Are you understanding that? Are you using all those things for that journey? After you do all that, then you beg me as well. And inshallah, I'll be at your service. Maybe it won't be today. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. Maybe it won't be tomorrow. Maybe it'll be the day after. Maybe I haven't been refined enough. My thought hasn't been refined enough that he tries to put me through a little more, quote unquote, hardship, so I can come out stronger, so I can come out with a better understanding. That said, there's also a beautiful hadith from the Imam alayhi salam where he again draws an example where he says that, when you go to hunt, for example, not you, right? We don't do that, but say, for example, a person goes hunting and they take a bow and an arrow with them, right? Imagine that this person went hunting and didn't have the arrows. Would they be able to hunt anything? Imagine if they went and they didn't have the bow, they just had the arrows. Okay, with the arrows, maybe still, something small, maybe they'll be able to hunt. But ideally, what we're talking about is you need the bow with the arrow. And the example that they draw is like anyone who makes a dua, but doesn't do the action that needs to go along with it, is like a hunter out there who has the bow but doesn't have the arrow. So that's also something that's important for us to remember to, inshallah, continue to move along the path of improving ourselves in our understanding, in our actions, and along with that, keep asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also important to remember that He is the master and we're the slave. It's not that I ask Him something and He needs to be there at my service. I'm not the master and He, na'udhu billah, is not the slave. It's the other way around. He decides when, where, how, and what. Our responsibility is to, inshallah, keep submitting and asking Him for better. And there's no doubt, the reason He created you and I is for us to be able to pursue that, is for us to be able to reach that. So He is going to give it to you and I. Perhaps, being able to take care of the red flags in my life, might be this, might be that, might be, God forbid, sins that I haven't been able to rid myself of, might be an understanding that needs further development, and so on and so forth. Inshallah, that answers the question. We know that Allah is the best of planners and He will do whatever is best for us, but sometimes it becomes difficult to be patient and wait. So what to do in such situation? Wait further. So I'm just kidding. But I think my previously what I mentioned I think does answer that. If it doesn't, then Sister Rouge, please feel free to send a follow-up. Next one says Imam Ali says that in matters of religion, look at those who are at the upper spiritual level, but sometimes when you indulge yourself in such surrounding, there's so much saturation, which brings a lot of comparison and self-doubt with it as well. How should we look at this then? Um, you are right. You are right. See, all of these things ultimately, and the Islamic ideology, the Islamic knowledge, the Islamic, the verses of the Quran, the ahadith, and so on and so forth, are so vast, so vast. But the important thing to understand is that my actions, my worldview, my ideology, the way I think, the lens that I see the world through are all dependent on my understanding. So, for example, if I understand that, and I'll just say a few things and, maybe it requires more thinking, but if I understand that the world is not graded on a curve, what do I mean graded on a curve? Like, how sometimes, I don't know if you guys in your universities they have that or not, but sometimes the professor grades the class on a curve. What that means is um, everyone is kind of relative to each other. So if the exam was really difficult, everyone got, for example, under 50%, then he would kind of curve it and he would move the grades up. So, whoever got a 50, for example, will end up with an A. Whoever got a 40 and so on and so forth. But the important thing to understand in this world is that God doesn't grade us on a curve. So being able to convince myself that really it doesn't matter how good or how bad the other person is. The reason why I'm looking at the other person when, in spiritual matters, when they're good, is to gain inspiration that I can be like that. I can be better than that. I should work harder, not to pull them down and so I can go further up, right? It's completely independent, completely independent. Their progress has absolutely no bearing on my progress. We're completely independent. And the other side of that sort of saying is that, but for material things, always look at people who are below you, so you can thank God for, what did I do so special that I have these blessings that they don't have. So understanding that this is not something that, I did something amazing that I deserve this, but rather it's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gave me that. So yes, the surroundings, the environment, all of those make a difference as well. Trying to push ourselves to make our circles in a way where everyone is encouraging each other, just like it's supposed to be in Islamic in Islamic community, in Islamic environment. And if we can move towards that, um, so we sort of live in an environment where there is Amr bil Maruf, there is Nahi anil Munkar, people encouraging each other, not to step on them and be able to move further, but everyone going and moving together. So that would be something that's ideal. The comparison, as I mentioned, being able to understand that it really is, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى, right? That no one will take anyone else's burdens. I came in this world by myself. I will leave this world by myself. It has absolutely no bearing what the person next to me or the person in front of me or the person behind me, what they're doing. Yes, sometimes there is, peer pressure, social pressures. Being able to deepen our understanding so much that we're able to live and be above and beyond these social norms, inshallah. How can we effectively manage our time to balance ibadah and worship, ibadah and studies? How much ibadah are you doing? Alhamdulillah. the regular ibadah takes, I don't know, like, I don't know, Zohar Asr, how long does it take? 10 minutes? If you're really doing it, say like 20 minutes. 20 minutes for Maghrib Isha, that's 40 minutes. 10 minutes for Fajr, that's 50 minutes. You want to add some mustahabats, the du'as and the ziyarats and this, add another 20 minutes. So you're looking at maximum between an hour, hour and a half, out of 24 hours, right? And that's quite a bit for an average person. An average person does not spend that much time doing ibadat. An hour and a half out of 24 hours, right? Say, for example, you're sleeping for 8 hours. Um, you're doing, I don't know, eating this, that. So add another 5 hours for that, 13 hours, 1.5 hour of ibadah, that's 14 and a half. I don't know, say you waste 6 hours. Like at the end of the day, um, um, I think it's something that's not that difficult. Other than that, it might be the case, when you're having exams or whatnot, that you feel like you just want to study more, but realizing that my efforts are a part of the equation, but a very important and majority of the equation is Allah and His tawfiq and His help and His blessings. So even when I'm studying, right, being able to see that the namaz is actually going to help me with that. And the studying, if I'm able to see everything, like we mentioned, through the lens of Islam, that the studying, because I'm studying for the sake of God, I'm studying for the sake of, Islam and so on and so forth, even if it's, quote unquote, um, dunyavi studies, whatever you want to call them. If I see that, then both of those things will help each other because I'm overall submitting to God, whether I'm doing this or whether I'm doing that. So they will help each other. If there's more specific questions about that balance, please do ask. One practical advice to practice self-control, please. If I were to put it in a nutshell, I would say contemplation. Contemplation. Reading a hadith about, for example, I don't know, like say, for example, I have a bad habit of lying. I have a bad habit of backbiting. I have a bad habit of overeating. I have a bad habit reading the hadith about that, contemplating, understanding, trying to tell myself, is this what I want? If I do this, this will be the result. If I do that, this will be the result. That contemplation and that being able to put two and two together to reach conclusions is one of the most important things that can help me have that azm, have that strive, have that strength in my self-control. If I were to say one thing, I think it would be that. On top of that, is that part that we talked about, begging Allah, definitely. How can we apply Islamic principles in dealing with the challenges of modern technology and social media? Oh, do we have another 5 hours? I'm just kidding. Um, it's so open-ended, so open-ended. But let me summarize it in this way. First step would be understanding Islamic principles, understanding Islam, understanding what Islam is trying to teach us, understanding what the direction God wants to take us. That's one thing that's really important. So I can even apply those Islamic principles. Before I apply them, I need to know them. Secondly, understanding that all these things, technology, social media, so on and so forth, phones, TVs, this, that, they're supposed to be tools. They're supposed to be tools. If you go deep into it, they have some inherent negative about them anyways. But if we kind of ignore that for now, they're tools, right? So how do you use those tools is something that you can control. It doesn't have to be the case that you always dive into the deep end and then try to, ask, oh, how do I survive? So it's not the case that, for your Islam, you have to be on TikTok, you have to be on Snapchat, You have to be on every single social media sort of outlet there is. No. For example, you say, no, there's a lot of good on social media. Okay, what's so good about social media? For example, you might say, oh, these, I don't know, these Instagram pages. Okay, if you get good stuff from those Instagram pages, then just follow those Instagram pages. So your entire feed is, stuff that will actually help you. YouTube, there's such good majalis. Okay, if there's such good majalis, there's such good this, such good content, then, try to keep your YouTube viewing or whatever limited to that, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think hopefully that answers.
I think it's end now, right?
I'm sorry?
I think it's end now. There are no further more questions, I think.
You're the boss. Whenever you end it, we end.
Okay, we are really grateful to Sayyid for this illuminating session and to all participants for your engagement and respect. Again, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Maulana for this enlightening session as it has significantly skyrocketed our motivation and spirit. Thank you for igniting such a powerful sense of direction and inspiration within us. Thank you so much, Aga. Before we conclude our session, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us on the path of rightness and increase us in the beneficial knowledge and ease the pain of the people in the Gaza and all those living in hardship. Give them hope, courage, and way out of their struggles. Let's conclude again our session with Dua al-Faraj. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسقنه أرضك تمام وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا مصطفى محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thanks again to Aga. Assalamu alaikum.